Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star Part 213 based on novel. So let's start. In the sky of Rock Island, 7 figures appeared. It was the group of Here Crow Knight and Bark Mirror Emperor. The desolate Rock Island, said Here Crow Knight. It perfectly matches the description in our information. The 7 great beings looked around sharply. They had remained cautious since stepping into 9 Remoteness space. It's safe on Rock Island, but there are no valuables, Bark Mirror Emperor said. He had been born with an unusually squeaky voice. Besides, it's a small island, and it will be dangerous if we step off it. He glanced the other great beings and added, I was ready to take my chances in 9 Remoteness Ocean and look for the valuables in that ocean. It is the most dangerous place in all of 9 Remoteness space. You can choose whether to come with me or not. The other 5 undying fighters were shocked. 9 Remoteness Ocean? Bark Mirror Emperor, are you really going to 9 Remoteness Ocean? Bark Mirror Emperor smirked. The other 5 were all from the Northern Territory Alliance like he was, which was why he had brought them here. However, it would be ridiculous for him to help the other 5 to search for valuables. He didn't have enough time. How about going to other islands first? One of them asked. Bark Mirror Emperor snorted, then looked at Here Crow Knight and asked, What about you, Here Crow Knight? Although all of these great beings were his companions, Here Crow Knight was the only one he valued. After all, he was a universe knight as well as his rival. 9 Remoteness Ocean was a place filled with real danger, and it would be much safer for him to go with someone else. The 5 undying heirs couldn't be blamed for not daring to go. 9 Remoteness Ocean was an endless ocean containing thousands of islands. Most of the heirs went there for valuables, whereas only a few of them had the guts to go to 9 Remoteness Ocean. Although the ocean was boundless and there might be more valuables hidden there than on all the other islands combined, it was also more hazardous than all the other islands combined. The most dangerous thing in the 9 Remoteness Ocean was the 9 Remoteness Whirlpool in the core of the ocean. Once someone was trapped in it, it would be almost impossible to survive even for a universe knight. Here Crow Knight was worried. If you want to go to 9 Remoteness Ocean, I'll come with you. But I need to make sure of one thing. You're not going to the 9 Remoteness Whirlpool, are you? Bark Mirror Emperor shook his head. Of course not. I'm confident, not reckless. There is danger everywhere in 9 Remoteness Ocean. I might dare to venture into other places, but I'll avoid the 9 Remoteness Whirlpool at all costs. Here Crow Knight was relieved. Fine, he said. I'll come with you and explore 9 Remoteness Ocean. Haha. Bark Mirror Emperor's squeaky voice gave him a shrill laugh. Here Crow Knight laughed along with him. The other 5 great beings looked at each other and consulted with one another telepathically. What are we supposed to do? Here Crow Knight and Bark Mirror Emperor are both going to the 9 Remoteness Ocean. What should we do? Without them, our chance of surviving on the other islands is small. But if we follow them, we might be able to arrive at some magical places and get some treasures by luck. We're their teammates. They won't attack us. We've been trapped at this stage for an eternity. I'll take my chances. Let's go. I'll follow. 9 Remoteness Ocean is arguably the most dangerous place here. It'll be worth it even if we die there. The 5 undying heirs had made their decisions. Here Crow Knight, Bark Mirror Emperor, will follow you. Yeah. Any island in 9 Remoteness space is dangerous. We'd rather go with you guys. We'll all come with you. Bark Mirror Emperor and Here Crow Knight were glad to bring them along. Let me search for any danger within the 1 billion square miles around us first, Bark Mirror Emperor said. Please do, Bark Mirror Emperor. The other 6, including Here Crow Knight, all stepped back. Bark Mirror Emperor had the best probing skills in the universe. He stepped forward and concentrated. The intricate engravings on his scales started to glow, and his golden eyes emanated an illusion that seemed to be a reflection of the surrounding space. Ahead of us, said Bark Mirror Emperor, looking ahead. He said calmly and confidently, there's no danger on the island. When we cross the island, we'll arrive at 9 Remoteness Ocean. The danger within 20 million miles of Rock Island can be ignored. The deeper into the ocean, the more dangerous it is. I've already discovered a universe night-level creature. Bark Mirror Emperor looked in another direction. He claimed to be looking. Actually, it was his talent technique known as Universe Mirror, which could inspect everything within 1 billion square miles by reflecting it in the mirror. All the danger was visible on the mirror, unless it was a universe master who could completely manipulate the time and space of an area. Otherwise, nothing could evade the universe mirror. Other great beings wouldn't even realize that they were being probed. "I've found an undying level special organism," he said. He looked to his left and was momentarily dazed. "Huh." Then he gave a weird smile. "Bark Mirror Emperor, what did you find?" Here Crow Knight couldn't help asking after seeing him smile like that. "Ha ha. Take a guess." Bark Mirror Emperor's look was perplexing, which confused Here Crow Knight and the other 5 undying heirs. "It's the famous Blade River Emperor." Here Crow Knight and the 5 undying heirs were all stunned. "Blade River Emperor? Interesting that Blade River Emperor has the guts to come to 9 Remoteness space," said Bark Mirror Knight. "I've heard that he has a set of wings that help him fly away. It's a true treasure. I didn't have the chance to kill him on Borhinia Island, but now is a great opportunity." He stuck out his thick, red tongue and licked his fangs. "Bark Mirror Emperor, are you serious?" Here Crow Knight was shocked. "Humph," said Black Mirror Emperor. "You might not dare to act, but I'm from the Northern Territory Alliance, and we're not afraid of that human alliance. You don't need to be a part of it if you don't want to, Here Crow Knight. Just behave yourself and don't reveal my intentions to Blade River Emperor. Otherwise, you'll make yourself my enemy." "Rest assured, I won't meddle," Here Crow Knight said, nodding. Northern Territory Alliance was the alliance with the most members, and it was also one of the superpowers of the universe. It could rival the alliances of the peak races like the human race, the demon race, and the bug race. "Let's go." Bark Mirror Emperor smirked and flew away slowly. He didn't dare to go too fast, as he didn't want Luo Feng to notice him. Greed filled Bark Mirror Emperor's golden eyes. "It'll be worth it for me to come to 9 Remoteness space if I can get those wings. I won't even need to risk going to 9 Remoteness ocean after I succeed." He was a special organism and was naturally greedy and ruthless. However, instead of being ashamed of how he was, he chose to be proud of it. In the cave of the mountain, Luo Feng used the microdetector to conceal himself as he sat with his legs crossed. He had no idea that Bark Mirror Emperor had used Universe Mirror to detect him. Obviously, Bark Mirror Emperor was skilled enough not to be found by the microdetector. "1 month left," said Luo Feng. "After a month, I can get the world tree's twigs and leaves and breed my 3rd body. After which, I can be an undying fighter." Luo Feng was looking forward to what was going to happen without realizing that 7 great beings had already arrived at the mountain. "Stop," Bark Mirror Emperor said. Here Crow Knight and the other 5 followed. "That human has a microdetector." Bark Mirror Emperor sniggered. "Unfortunately, those detectors are useless. Even the top-tier detectors from the automaton race can't compare with my techniques." "Seal." Bark Mirror Emperor looked at the mountain in front of him and used Space Seal. Suddenly, the space ripple in almost half the rock island stopped. "Go in," he said. Bark Mirror Emperor rushed into the mountain. The other 6 followed him. "Something's wrong," Luo Feng said, glancing at some of the gravel in the cave as he sensed Space Seal. One of the gravels was a keepsake, and there was a second one hidden in another cave. They were used by his servants to position God Country transportation. "Even if I leave temporarily, I can still transport myself here directly." Luo Feng opened his wings and flew out of the cave instantly. He felt a remarkable source of strength storming toward him the moment he rushed out of the cave and saw a great being that looked like a werewolf flying toward him. He had golden hair and golden eyes and was covered in scales, which were filled with engravings. "Bark Mirror Emperor," Luo Feng said. He was startled. Dealing with one of the most famous special organisms on Borhinia Island would be a handful. Bark Mirror Emperor was proficient in tracking and hunting, and he was greedy and merciless. Luo Feng shook his wings and sped up. "Haha, Blade River Emperor, are you really trying to flee from me?" laughed Bark Mirror Emperor. "I'm known for my tracking skills, And I aced space law. Besides, I'm innately fast and have a godly body much better than yours. So, let's see who's faster, you or me. Bark Mirror Emperor sped up, chasing after Luo Feng. Bark Mirror Emperor had a mighty godly body, and his constitution was 2,000 times better than that of normal great beings. Human Emperor limits were 100,000 times stronger than Sector Lords, whereas Bark Mirror Emperor was 200,000 times stronger, which made him equal to a Universe Knight, a powerful godly body with a natural gift for speed. Bark Mirror Emperor was speeding up. Luo Feng sped up too but was astonished to see that Bark Mirror Emperor was gaining on him. What? He said. Second form. Luo Feng had to admit that he had underestimated Bark Mirror Emperor. He didn't have time to think of anything else. Instead, he initiated the second form, and the plumes on that wings became sharp like sabers. The wings tore the surrounding space apart, resulting in significant space turbulence. His body appeared blurry within the turbulence. Bark Mirror Emperor, chasing Luo Feng, was also trapped in the space turbulence, where there were all kinds of space fragments. Each space fragment was as enormous as a planet, which slowed him down as he rampaged among the fragments. He couldn't concentrate on chasing Luo Feng anymore. However, instead of becoming upset, Bark Mirror Emperor grew joyful. True treasures are indeed impressive, he shouted. But you, as a mere human, are not qualified for such true treasures. As a special organism, only I am good enough for them. Give me the true treasures, and I'll spare your life. Bark Mirror Emperor's force surged, he was already burning his godly body. For true treasures, he was willing to burn his godly body. Besides, the Northern Territory Alliance provided him with endless resources just to attract him, and he had abundant valuables to use to recover his godly body. Bark Mirror Emperor had a godly body that was more powerful than that of an ordinary knight, and once he started to burn it, his power soared. Bark Mirror Emperor sped up again, opening a wide portal among the space turbulence and crushing all the space fragments in his way. Luo Feng sensed Bark Mirror Emperor's speed skyrocket, nearly catching up to him. I'm slower than him. Luo Feng realized. He shook his wings. Shua, 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 shua. He started to change directions continuously like a butterfly, pausing, darting, then zigzagging back and forth. Sometimes he rushed forward, sometimes he flew to his left, and sometimes he made a sharp turn. Generally, the faster one went, the more difficult it was to change directions. It was just like a sports car, the greater the speed, the higher the risk of rolling the vehicle while trying to navigate a turn. Bark Mirror Emperor was unprepared for this. He's quite maneuverable. Bark Mirror Emperor was following Luo Feng as his directions changed. When flying straight, Luo Feng couldn't match Bark Mirror Emperor's speed, even he performed the second form of Shi Wu Wing and caused space turbulence. However, Bark Mirror Emperor panicked as he attempted to quickly change direction. Seal. Bark Mirror Emperor got furious and used his undying power to suppress Luo Feng, but it was torn by Luo Feng's Shi Wu wings. Bark Mirror Emperor, why are you coming after me? Luo Feng said. My wings were given to me by a universe master. Even if you take them, they will be taken back in the future. Haha. Don't scare me with universe masters, said Bark Mirror Emperor excitedly. The Northern Territory Alliance has universe masters, too. No wonder it's a true treasure. My constitution is way better than yours, and I'm faster than you. But I'm not as maneuverable. I can only speed up again and again to make sure you can't get away. Here Crow Knight and the other 5 undying heirs flew in the sky above the 9 Remoteness Ocean as they watched Bark Mirror Emperor hunt Blade River Emperor. Bark Mirror Emperor can't catch up with Blade River Emperor even after burning his godly body. Those wings really must be a true treasure. Burning his godly body can speed him up, but the faster he gets, the more difficult it is for him to change his directions, here Crow Knight said. Bark Mirror Emperor can only guarantee that he's not left far behind. He should be attacking now. Bark Mirror Emperor couldn't catch up. After a while, a purple crystal ball showed up in front of him. The purple crystal ball flew above Luo Feng much faster than Bark Mirror Emperor under his undying power. It quickly expanded and turned into a huge purple star with a diameter of thousands of miles, and a massive hole appeared under it. A whirlpool formed in the hole, and a forceful, swallowing power dashed Luo Feng. Under its effects, Luo Feng couldn't maintain his balance. "This is my sealing treasure," Bark Mirror Emperor said with a laugh. "Though I can't comprehend all of space law, with this treasure and my burning godly body, my sealing skills are better than that of a universe knight. Let's see you break free of that." Luo Feng was trapped within an endless swallowing force. Usually, creatures attack their enemies first and then seal an enemy when they are severely injured and can't put up a fight anymore, Luo Feng roared in his heart. "Yet you attempt to seal me first. Not possible. Shi Wu Wing, break it." Suddenly, the edges of his Shi Wu wings sliced the surrounding space into pieces. Of the many different kinds of treasures, sealing treasures were effective for sealing, but they had weak attacking power. Unless the great being was significantly inferior to the treasure, it was impossible for a sealing treasure to swallow a great being. Shi Wu Wing kept slicing the space, and Luo Feng finally broke out. "Huh!" Bark Mirror Emperor was dazed, but then he smirked. "True treasures are indeed impressive. Blade River Emperor, I didn't want to kill you in the first place, but now, you brought this upon yourself." Bark Mirror Emperor opened his mouth. Silence. Everything turned quiet in the sky and land as Bark Mirror Emperor opened his mouth incredibly wide. Here Crow Knight and the other 5 undying heirs were terrified and began murmuring to each other. "If Bark Mirror Emperor howls, Blade River Emperor won't survive it. But Blade River Emperor has clone technique. Either way, this body is not going to survive it, and his true treasures will fall into the hands of Bark Mirror Emperor." Here Crow Knight had the same thought, as Bark Mirror Emperor's 2 talent techniques were distinctive in the universe. One of them was inspection, and the other was attack. He could see everything with his inspection technique, but he could crush a soul with his attacking technique. The moment Bark Mirror Emperor opened his mouth, Luo Feng felt an invisible force. Howl! Even Luo Feng was knocked unconscious by this attack's immensely powerful will. The soul roar was trying to annihilate his very soul. Meanwhile, Tower Pearl, which guarded the core of Luo Feng's soul, suddenly appeared, started to shine, and surrounded his soul. The roaring continued. In front of Luo Feng's soul, Bark Mirror Emperor's head appeared, its phantom image opening its bloody mouth and bellowing at Luo Feng. Wung wung wung. The Tower Pearl started to tremble. Luo Feng's soul shook. The willpower around his soul had been destroyed. Only his core, which was being protected by Tower Pearl, resisted the force. Howl! Wung! Tower Pearl strived to protect the soul. Luo Feng regained consciousness. "How terrifying," he mumbled, startled by the realization of what had just happened. "Before the Tower Pearl showed up, that attack knocked me unconscious. Apparently, I can't resist it in the slightest. If it weren't for the Tower Pearl, I would have been crushed." Even the Tower Pearl had a hard time resisting it. The more powerful the special organisms were, the more incredible their talent techniques were. Silver Eye was merely mediocre. Special organisms like Bark Mirror Emperor and Juchong Emperor were the real talents. "Time to run." Luo Feng dove toward the 9 Remoteness Ocean, knowing he couldn't get away no matter how skillfully he changed directions. 9 Remoteness Ocean was the largest and most dangerous place in 9 Remoteness space, especially with considering the 9 Remoteness Whirlpool, but Luo Feng couldn't worry about that right now. Water in the ocean was blasted away as Luo Feng traveled down into the 9 Remoteness Ocean. "Impossible," Bark Mirror Emperor said, blown away by what he had just seen. He couldn't believe Blade River Emperor could resist the attack he was proudest of. His face was twitching as he dove into 9 Remoteness Ocean. In the sky above the ocean. Here Crow Knight and the other 5 undying heirs were dazed. He resisted it. He didn't die. They found it unbelievable. Here Crow Knight kept shaking his head. Bark Mirror Emperor's godly body is so powerful that he can rival universe knights. Now that he's burning his undying power to perform his talent technique, that attack can rival that of a universe overlord. How could the human, Blade River Emperor, withstand that? "Here Crow Knight," said another heir, "Bark Mirror Emperor has the power of a universe knight, and he just burned his power to use his talent technique. How could Blade River Emperor repel that power? Unless he has another true treasure used to protect his soul, A true treasure to protect his soul? The other heirs were dazed. That's right, a true treasure, Heer Kronite said, nodding. He has a soul, and he himself can't defend against that attack. It had to be the true treasure, a true treasure used to protect his soul. Bark Mirror Emperor has two true treasures. The humans value Blade River Emperor so much that it's certainly possible he has two true treasures. Two true treasures. Other 5 heirs couldn't believe it. This is insane, said Heer Kronite, incredibly jealous. He was a universe knight, yet he didn't have even one. Bark Mirror Emperor and Juchong Emperor both had two true treasures, and so did Blade River Emperor. If I'm lucky enough to have it, I'll just hide, said Heer Kronite. 2 treasures, one used to flee and the other used to protect my soul. Aggression flashed across Heer Kronite's eyes. He dove toward the ocean, too. In the cold, oppressive ocean, the water emanated a heart-stopping force. Bark Mirror Emperor kept chasing Luo Feng and kept and space-sealed. At the same time, he roared, "Human, there's no way you can escape. You could withstand my talent technique attack, which means you have a real treasure to protect your soul. It has to be. They're both mine. Mine." Bark Mirror Emperor had gone crazy. A true treasure to protect souls was much rarer and much more precious than a flying true treasure. Luo Feng kept changing his direction in Remoteness Ocean and dove deeper and deeper into this deadly area. Deep in Remoteness Ocean, each drop of water was as heavy as a mountain, but Luo Feng and Bark Mirror Emperor shot like missiles through the depths. Blade River Emperor, there's no way you can escape. Bark Mirror Emperor roared insanely. Haha. You're good at escaping and resisting soul attacks, but unless you have a Flying Palace true treasure, I refuse to believe you can defend yourself against my material strike. Die. Bark Mirror Emperor waved his paws, and a stream of terrifying undying power manifested as a blurry grey beam that shot toward Luo Feng, still trying to escape by changing his directions irregularly. Luo Feng was startled. Damn it. Although Bark Mirror Emperor followed the warrior path, releasing undying power was a rather easy way to attack. Normally, it was relatively weak, but Bark Mirror Emperor had extraordinary undying power, which he was currently burning. Even this weak tactic would be enough to kill Luo Feng if he was hit. There were many kinds of true treasures. Sky Wolf Palace and Star Tower belonged to the Flying Palace category of true treasures. When it came to avoiding a fight, such true treasures would come in handy. If Luo Feng were able to hide inside Sky Wolf Palace, enemies couldn't hurt him even if they bombed Sky Wolf Palace continuously. Unfortunately, I don't have that kind of true treasure, thought Luo Feng. He maintained his high speed, and each time his Shi-Wu wings shook, the shockwave resulted in great space turbulence. A pillar of undying power cut through the ocean. Space turbulence and erupted to Luo Feng's right. I've dodged it, Luo Feng thought, relieved. His high-speed changes of direction made him difficult to hit. Haha. Bark Mirror Emperor laughed. I was right. You don't have Flying Palace-type true treasures. Blade River Emperor, you're relying on your wings to escape and your soul true treasure to resist soul attacks. Unfortunately, you don't have a true treasure to defend yourself against a material strike. You're doomed. Let's see how many more times you can dodge it. 2 pillars of undying power were fired at Luo Feng. There was no law comprehension in them, on the contrary, they depended on burning, undying power that could rival universe knights. Madness filled Bark Mirror Emperor's eyes. I can't catch up with you, but my undying power can. He was far stronger than Luo Feng and chased him as if trying to swat a troublesome insect. The insect may have been agile and armed with soul true treasures, but if Bark Mirror Emperor used pure undying power to crush him, unless Luo Feng had a true treasure like Sky Wolf Palace, he would have no chance of survival. Should I summon Mosha body back? Luo Feng wondered, still changing his directions irregularly. A pillar of undying power flashed beside him while the following one clipped the edge of his wing, spinning Luo Feng around. He was stunned but still managed to change directions again rapidly, making the best of Shi-Wu wings. Although Mosha body has the talent technique domain, it only works on the body itself, it can't carry me, Luo Feng thought. This was the limitation of domain. It was a completely different skill than teleportation. One could teleport along with other life forms and enter a space ripple together, reaching faraway places instantly. But domain was limited to within a diameter of 6,000 miles of Mosha body. Domain was achieved when Mosha body merged with space, then turned back into Mosha body. Luo Feng's original body couldn't do that unless, perhaps, he entered the world ring and let it be carried by Mosha body. However, with Bark Mirror Emperor's permeating undying power, he had no chance of getting into his world ring. Escaped again? Bark Mirror Emperor smiled smugly. I didn't expect you to dodge my attacks twice. Those wings aid you well in your escape. Let's see if you can dodge it for the third time. Bark Mirror Emperor's madness intensified as he began to condense a mass of tempestuous undying power. Undying power needed to be condensed in order to be forceful. If it was dispersed among a 600 million mile area, it was feeble and could only be used for detection instead of attacking. When undying power couldn't be condensed further, it formed a godly body. Undying power into threads, roared Bark Mirror Emperor. Cage. Bark Mirror Emperor reached out his paws, and suddenly, thousands of undying power threads shot out in pursuit of Luo Feng. Each of the threads was as concentrated as possible, like Bark Mirror Emperor's godly body. The move had consumed 10% of Bark Mirror Emperor's godly body. Since the start of the battle, all his other moves had only cost him 1%, but this single move, producing thousands of threads, required an immense quantity of undying power. There's nowhere to run. Bark Mirror Emperor seethed. 2 true treasures awaited him after he defeated Blade River Emperor. He could even escape universe overlords if he had those 2. In an instant, a giant whirlpool appeared before them, producing a massive, tearing current. Bark Mirror Emperor turned toward the whirlpool, astonished. What? As Bark Mirror Emperor watched, a towering red figure emerged from the whirlpool. 2 bloody horns protruded from its head. The figure leveled its gaze at Bark Mirror Emperor. Other races, growled the horned figure. How dare you roam the 9 Remoteness Ocean? Die. A 9 Remoteness Whirlpool, said Bark Mirror Emperor. And a great being, in a 9 Remoteness Whirlpool? He was well aware of the dangers of the 9 Remoteness Ocean, the deadliest of which being 9 Remoteness Whirlpool. But he had never expected the whirlpool to appear out of nowhere or for a great being to reside within it. He could sense the horned figure's energy. It was a universe night. And it was superior to him. A burning, bloody light from the horned universe night shrouded Bark Mirror Emperor. Begone! Bark Mirror Emperor cried, manipulating the threads of undying power against the bloody light. It would have been easy to kill Blade River Emperor with these threads, but the great being in front of him was his real enemy. Thousands of threads, making up of 10% of his godly body, coalesced into a spear flying toward the bloody light. The 2 forces crashed and exploded in the water, each dispersing in the aftermath. You've got some skill, the Universe Knight said, a bit surprised. Die. Bark Mirror Emperor roared as he cast his talent technique. Silence. Silence engulfed the area around them, and a soundless shock wave ripped forward and slammed into the Universe Knight in the 9 Remoteness Whirlpool. But nothing happened. Ha ha, the Universe Knight chuckled. A soul attack is useless to me. The towering figure with its bloody horns roared and hurled himself at Bark Mirror Emperor. You can do nothing to me, Bark Mirror Emperor scoffed. The thousands of threads had consumed 10% of his godly body while the strike from the enemy had cost him less than 2%. Although Bark Mirror Emperor knew he was weaker than this great being, he was unafraid. It's no wonder only 1 in 100 Universe Knights survives the 9 Remoteness Whirlpool, said Bark Mirror Emperor. Is anyone who shows up here as powerful as this Universe Knight? I'll disregard him now. I can't beat him, but I'm faster than he is. Bark Mirror Emperor turned around and continued to chase after Luo Feng. The towering figure with the bloody horns raced forward in pursuit. Bark Mirror Emperor was proficient in tracking and hunting and possessed unparalleled speed when he accelerated. Luo Feng, even after casting the second form of Shi-Wu Wing, couldn't match Bark Mirror Emperor, and neither could the Universe Knight. I'll kill you, Blade River Emperor roared Bark Mirror Emperor, right on Luo Feng's heels. Then I'll escape. He waved his paws, and threads of undying began to concentrate again. Fight. Luo Feng had been lucky that the bloody horned figure showed up and forced Bark Mirror Emperor to manipulate his threads to deal with the real threat. But now, Bark Mirror Emperor knew he was not the Universe Knight's match and resumed focusing on killing Luo Feng. Luo Feng had no time to think. His erratic movements had brought him back around, almost in a full circle. He shook his wings and dove directly into Remoteness Whirlpool. Remoteness Whirlpool possessed an incredible tearing, all-consuming current. Luo Feng was sucked inside the moment he touched it. Bark Mirror Emperor saw Blade River Emperor dive into Remoteness Whirlpool just as he finished condensing his threads. No, he shouted in exasperation. Bark Mirror Emperor was powerful, but even he didn't dare to go into the Remoteness Whirlpool. As for Luo Feng, he could only resort to taking this last-ditch effort. Bark Mirror Emperor's only choice now was to flee for his life from the horned Universe Knight. My two true treasures. Bark Mirror Emperor growled through clenched teeth, flying out of the ocean and up in the sky. The bloody horned figure of the Universe Knight stepped out of the ocean and onto the rolling waves. It looked up just in time to see Bark Mirror Emperor teleport and disappear. The Universe Knight smirked. Was it something I said? The bloody horned figure re-entered the ocean and swam back down, approaching the Remoteness Whirlpool. Without hesitation, it dove into the whirlpool. Above the ocean. Here Crow Knight remained behind a moment longer. He had been watching the fight and was terrified. Everyone says the Remoteness Whirlpool is the portal to the core of Remoteness Ocean, he said. There must be a group of great beings living there. The one that just showed up was stronger than me, and it comes from a race that's immune to soul attack. That human, Blade River Emperor, went directly into Remoteness Whirlpool. Now he's dead, and his true treasures shall be lost forever in the core. What a pity. Coldness flashed in Here Crow Knight's eyes. But at least Bark Mirror Emperor doesn't have them. He gazed at the whirlpool afar. Although the Remoteness Whirlpool had appeared out of nowhere, it was still there now, and it was likely to remain there for a long time. And it somehow felt enticing. As if it were luring Here Crow Knight to come in. Too risky, said Here Crow Knight, shaking off the strange feeling. A portal that appears out of nowhere and isn't God country transportation. No wonder it's the most dangerous place of Remoteness space. He teleported himself and disappeared. The moment he entered the Remoteness Whirlpool, Luo Feng felt an immense, tearing current the likes of which he'd never encountered before. He felt like he had been caught beneath a millstone grinding grain. His body crackled, and his face twisted. The current alone will annihilate me, Luo Feng realized, terrified. Seal Star. A seal star appeared, a sealing treasure with a space inside, and Luo Feng wriggled into it. As long as he hid in it, attacks from the outside would be significantly weakened. However, there was a major downside to doing so. Since the seal star couldn't fly quickly or dodge independently, enemies could grab hold of it. This made it practically useless when trying to avoid a pursuer, such as fleeing Bark Mirror Emperor. It was a beautiful world inside the seal star. Beams of golden light flashed through the sky above the boundless solid ground. Luo Feng merged his mind with the seal star and used his spiritual force to detect the external world around the star. It's kind of like the wormholes of the secret region, thought Luo Feng. Previously, a wormhole had sent to the five-colored pool, and luckily, he had gotten the space heart as a result. Well, here I am, he said. But as Luo Feng felt the surroundings becoming steady, he inspected the external world, and his heart missed a beat. He could distinctly sense an army formed by life forms of other races, all of whom had red, burly bodies and bloody horns. They appeared to be of the same race as the Universe Knight that had chased after Bark Mirror Emperor. A squad of warriors closest to the portal of the whirlpool suddenly flew toward it, approaching the seal star. "Heh! A valuable," one said. "What valuable is it?" said another. When they felt a spiritual force passing through their bodies, all of them started to roar furiously. An invader from another race. Other races trespassing. The star disappeared, instantly replaced by a silver-armored, silver-winged man. Luo Feng looked around and saw 300 warriors, all of whom were undying fighters. The leader had such powerful energy that he might have been an invincible emperor. Luo Feng felt numb. Even the human race did not have the ability to deploy 300 undying fighters to guard a single area. For a random squad stationed here to be so strong, he thought, looking around in astonishment. According to my knowledge of this place, this isn't the only 9 Remoteness Whirlpool in 9 Remoteness Ocean. I wonder if all of them are so heavily guarded. Many of the bloody-horned warriors grew eager like predators in the presence of prey. Sorry, said Luo Feng. Can't stick around. Su. Luo Feng shook his wing and started to fly away. Intruder, one of them roared. Quick! Go after him, the captain shouted. First team and second team, follow me. Third team, stay here. Howl! Howl! Suddenly, one bloody shadow after another flew up into the sky, roaring and raced toward Luo Feng. As soon as Luo Feng breached the ocean, he felt the stark difference between the outside world and the sky and land, which were so different from other districts in 9 Remoteness space. Stars shone in the sky, and a blurry, bloody mist permeated the air, giving the entire sky and land unparalleled strength. The resistance is so strong, he said. Suddenly, he realized that the strange strength here stopped the space ripple completely, thus suppressing God-country transportation. No teleportation, he muttered in disbelief. No God-country transportation. Finally, Luo Feng understood why even universe night-level great beings could only arrive here through the 9 Remoteness Whirlpool. Teleportation and God-country transportation were impossible. Howl! Ha ha ha! Laughing voices blasted Luo Feng's ears with undying energy. He looked back to see a multitude of bloody figures dashing toward him. Foreign invader, roared the captain. This sky and land belong to our race. While you are heavily suppressed here, we are unaffected. There's no way you can get away. Luo Feng could feel the bloody mist suppressing the space ripple, yet these creatures flew unaffected. You, merely undying fighters, want to catch up with me? Luo Feng said. His Shiwu wings ripped through the air, causing space turbulence as his speed surged, and he shot into the distance. The warriors could only watch as the intruder flew farther and farther away. Soon, he became a small, silver spot, then vanished. They stood there, perplexed and staring at each other. How could he be so fast? They asked one another. He's only an undying fighter from a foreign race. How can he be faster than us here in our homeland? The 300 undying warriors were unprepared for this. They were highly experienced in dealing with foreign invaders. The speed of undying fighters of other races was always sharply reduced when they entered their homeland, thus allowing them to easily outpace any intruders. If it was a universe knight, they would immediately report it and ask the universe knights of their race to take up the matter, but this one had only been a normal undying fighter. Damn it, roared the biggest of the bloody-horned warriors. We let an undying fighter from another race get away. They warriors looked to their captain. What should we do, captain? What now? The burly figure growled. We report what happened, of course. Unless you want to die. Stars shone in the sky, dimmed by the bloody mist hanging over the land. Mountains, streams, and forests covered the land. When Luo Feng finally felt confident that he had evaded the 300 warriors, he slowed to a halt and looked around. Such a large world, he said. I've flown 6 billion miles already and haven't encountered any other life forms. This race must only have a small number of creatures, but they're all incredibly powerful. He sat down with his legs crossed. No teleportation and no God-country transportation, he thought. Which means I can't break out of here. All I can do is wait to be killed by this race like a lamb awaiting the slaughter. Luo Feng checked his coordinates and found that, strangely, this sky and land were at the bottom of the 9 Remoteness Ocean. I'm at the center of 9 Remoteness Ocean, he muttered to himself. According to my coordinates, it's still inside 9 Remoteness space. Though I can't teleport myself, my Mosha body could use his talent technique domain to get in, he thought. As long as Mosha body isn't also hunted, he should be able to get here without any trouble. I'll wait here first, he said. Mosha body has been floating for such a long time on his approach to the World Tree, and it's only a month before he reaches the final stage of the mission. Luo Feng pondered the situation for a while and concluded that what happened around him was already beyond his control, whereas he was confident that Moshe Body could get a twig and leaf of the world tree this time. I can't give up now, he decided. Besides, escape is not guaranteed, even if Moshe Body were to enter now. I need to get in touch with my teacher first. Just as Luo Feng connected to Primal Chaos City Leader through the virtual universe, members of the indigenous race were communicating with each other through the virtual world they had set up in 9 Remoteness space. In an opulent palace in an ancient city at the center of 9 Remoteness space, a burly black-armored universe knight roared with fury. A foreign invader? You can't even catch an undying fighter from another race. Follow me, my children. Yes, General. The burly universe knight led an elite team of 10 warriors to fly out from the city. Ma Tuor, a voice said within the universe knight's head. His godly body trembled before he stopped, and the warriors behind him followed his lead. General, the warriors said, confused. It was the prince, the burly universe knight said in a deep voice. Prince. The 10 captain-level elite warriors were all started. They quickly began to grovel, along with their general, as in the distance, tens of creatures flew out of the most towering palace of the ancient city. 3 of them were unbelievably powerful. They reached the group in no time. Your Highness, the Universe Knight-level general said, bowing to show respect. Your Highness, echoed the 10 warriors behind him as they kneeled. The leader of the creatures that had just arrived had a handsome face covered in red engravings. He wore gorgeous armor of gold and red, emanating a powerful ripple that could only have come from a true treasure. He was the prince, and he stood apart from all the others of his race. He looked as if he were from a different race entirely. General Ma Tuor, said the prince in a fair voice. I just heard that a team under your command found a foreign invader. He's only an undying fighter, yet he managed to escape your team? Yes, Your Highness, the burly general answered respectfully. Interesting, the prince continued. An undying fighter with such power. I heard that out of the heirs in the ancestral god school, some undying fighters are mighty. I'm also undying. Who's better? I wonder. Him or me? You have invincible power, Your Highness, answered General Ma Tuor. That invader is not your match. We can't underestimate other races, the prince said. Lead the way. Let's go hunt this undying fighter from another race. The burly general was dazed. You're afraid that I might run into danger? The prince asked. No, that's not what I meant, Your Highness, the general answered. Humph. All of my 107 brothers are still alive, the prince said confidently. How dangerous can it be? Go. Yes, Your Highness, the general said, with no choice but to follow orders. The great beings departed to hunt down this undying fighter alongside their prince. This video will end here.